This panel is about getting involved in research, particularly for people who are not scientists or embedded in the medical research community, but how can we bring the voice of the mind-body practitioners, the teachers who are on the front line, together with the researchers. And I think we saw in our last panel how important it is to have someone like Arthur talk about this from a practice perspective, and then Calvin Chin on the first day. And in many of our studies, we've included practitioners to help us shape what the questions that we think are important, et cetera. So this panel is about how to get involved in research. Just to unpack this, I just want to share an anecdote that happened in the hallway the other day, yesterday. A person who practices with active military in the DoD, he said that he's teaching them Qigong to deal with stress and trauma and things like that. He gets about 6 sessions with them, and he decided he was really curious. When they come in, he's going to give them some surveys to get a sense of the level of their trauma, depression, anxiety, stress, things like that. And then after his 6 sessions, he does the same thing. And he's like, and I have all these people. I said, how many of you have you seen? He's like, well over 200. And I said, and you have pre and post data for both of them? He's like, yeah. He's like, can I do anything with that data? And that's just a perfect example of how a practitioner, in this case, a very smart one, because they're collecting the information. They're not just saying, oh, they told me they feel better at the end, but that there's something there. But then I think my suggestion to him was, well, first you need to make sure you can use these data and get permission from the medical community in terms of institutional review boards. But then you need to find a young scientist or a fellow or a colleague that's good at creating spreadsheets and helping you write this paper. And so that's a little bit about the spirit of this. And that's just one example. And Dr. Riss is going to be talking about doing case studies and case series. But I just want to just say that we need practitioners not just to deliver the intervention in our study, but what's a logical question? And if you're going to pursue this, here are the things that we think you should be measuring as well. So in the whole conception of the study and in the design of a study, we need the input of these frontline stakeholders, so to speak. What should we be teaching them? If they have Parkinson's disease, or if they're younger people or older people, we may change the protocol. And those aren't things that scientists are necessarily the best people to make those decisions. How do we make sure that if they do come up with a protocol, that they're sticking to it? And the scientist isn't going to be sure that, oh yeah, they're using the right language, and on week 4 and 5, they're doing the right things. So the teachers can get involved in developing the protocol and monitoring what's called the fidelity of it. And then at the end of the day, how do we interpret the results? And some of it may make no sense. Why did this happen to the scientists? But the practitioners say, oh, that makes sense because you're not seeing it the way I do. So I just want to say that there's a place in good research from the conception to the publication that we need to engage the wisdom of this community. And so this session's a little bit about how to break into that and how we can reach out, but more importantly, how practitioners can reach in. One way to find out, well, first thing is I really want to get involved in research. Maybe you've been inspired at this conference, which we hope you have been. How do you get involved? Who's doing research in your community? And one resource I really want you to know about is called The Reporter. It's an NIH platform, and it pretty much any funded study at the NIH, Lene, Dr. Mudd here from NIH can clarify this if I get it wrong, is listed there. Ones that are ongoing now, ones that are somewhat completed, but there's a full database. And you can do things like write Boston area. So in this field, it's a search engine. I put in Boston, and what else did I put in here? Tai Chi, right? And it'll then tell me all the different studies that are being done in the Boston area on Tai Chi, and who the principal investigator is, what the summary of the study is, et cetera. And so you can get a feel wow, I had no idea there was studies going on Boston University, UMass, Boston, BC, Harvard, etc. Right? So you just get a feel of the landscape. You can put in all sorts of things. You can put in Parkinson's disease. Maybe you want to approach people who are not doing Tai Chi, but are doing Parkinson's, and you're a Tai Chi expert with experience in Parkinson's. You want to go to a lab that's like one of the best labs for Parkinson's and balance and say, you've been doing really great physical therapy. I have another tool that you might be, and I can be of value to you above and beyond what's going on. So you can be really creative, but this is one of the better databases that you can do. Here's an example of what you would see if you wanted to look at the abstract of one of these. You don't need to see the details, but you can learn a lot. Also, if you're a researcher, this is a really good thing to do. I have this great idea, and then you realize, oh wow, there's 5 new studies that are already just starting. Maybe it's not so novel and maybe not that competitive because NIH may not. So this is a great resource, I think, that's underutilized. And in most of our talks on the science of Tai Chi, we ask people, and William Tsong, who's here, did a beautiful job saying, here's what has been done, but let me show you the 5 or 6 studies that are currently active in Hong Kong and throughout China, which I think is just such a gift to the research community. Not just what's been done, but what's coming down the pipeline. If you are a practitioner, there's some really practical things, and some of these are just common sense. It's nothing to do with science or anything. But you want to think about, okay, so I'm a teacher. What role do you want to play in the study? Do you want to just be a teacher and they'll tell you what to do? Do you want to help develop protocols? Do you have some background in science? Are you seeing patients? For example, maybe you have a couple patients that you keep seeing that are referred to you through physical therapy or a neurologist, and you're having some success. Maybe you want to partner with that neurologist and say, we want to characterize a series of cases, and I want to partner with you. So you want to be really clear about what it is you want to do with them. When you approach anybody, you want to do it with respect. Anyone who's running a lab is really busy, and they probably get a lot of calls. I've gotten cold calls in the middle of like a busy day, and it's like, hey, I'm a Tai Chi teacher. Can we meet later this week? I'm in town. And that's just not the best way to initiate a discussion. Maybe there are situations where you're just in town and you learn something and that it could work, but thoughtful letters, professional letters are really good ways to do it. Short, concise, sort of just, in acupuncture to say that you want to get the fish to bite the hook. You just want to connect that dirt chi with that person, that connect with them, and then take it from there. If you have a CV, the more professional you are, the better. Even within science, the quality of your note makes a big difference. My mentor, we got a big grant, many millions of dollars, my first big NIH grant, and I was so excited, and I sent a note to the team. True story, and it's also Pamela's mentor as well. And I just said, we got it, I'm really excited. And then I get a call like 2 seconds later from my mentor, and she's like, I thought she was going to say, you did it. And she's like, there are 4 typos in your email. And if you want to be a leader and hold everyone to the highest standards, you need to emulate that. And this makes a difference. When we review grants at NIH, if people, propose a clinical trail as opposed to a clinical trial, we're like, we're going to give them a few $1 million. Are they going to pay attention to detail? And so all these little things matter. And so you want to really be thoughtful in reaching out. You may only get one shot to connect to this community. Not that it's more or less important than yours, but it's bridge building. So with that in mind, I just really wanted to say that this bridging is really important, and we have 3 fantastic presenters today. And they're going to introduce themselves. And we have Dr. Lene Mudd from NIH, and she's going to be talking about training opportunities and resources. Dr. Rist, colleague at Brigham, is going to be talking about cases and case series and what you can and cannot do in early studies. And then Stanwood Chang is a Tai Chi instructor who's been working in trials and gets involved in protocol development and things like that. It's going to share some sort of frontline experiences, what it's been like for him to work in that context.
Thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Lene Mudd. I am a program officer and the training officer at the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health. We are thrilled that this conference is taking place. I oversee our meditative movement research portfolio, and I've been wanting to see a Science of Tai Chi and Qigong conference for many years. So I'm very happy to see all of you here and the interest in this session in particular. I'm going to be talking mostly about some of the resources that NIH provides for engaging with and interpreting science. I am not going to talk specifically about all of our opportunities to support research training and career development. If you want to go the direction of getting a research PhD or further degree, I'm happy to answer questions about those opportunities at the end if you have those questions. So for those who are not familiar, this is a picture of the clinical center at the National Institutes of Health. And this is our mission. We are a government agency that seeks fundamental knowledge about the nature and behavior of living systems and the application of that knowledge to enhance health, lengthen life, and reduce illness and disability. The NIH is actually made up of 27 different institutes, centers, and offices, each with their own individual missions and strategic priorities. And I have circled in red the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, where certainly we fund a lot of science on Tai Chi and Qigong. But that science is also represented in priorities of other institutes and centers across the NIH, for example, the National Institute of Aging, as well as others. So what's in a name? First, to orient you to the NCCIH. We changed our name from the National Center of Alternative Medicine several years ago to really focus on the complementary and integrative aspects of the practices that we support research on. So the C, the complementary, includes complementary therapies, practices, and systems that may have originated outside of Western medicine, including nutritional approaches like natural products, as well as physical and or psychological approaches, often called mind-body approaches, which include Tai Chi, yoga, meditation, and other therapies. The I stands for integration, and this is really about advancing research to integrate these practices within conventional care, as well as across physiology, pathophysiology, and treatment. And the H, we are very focused on health promotion and restoration, resilience, and well-being. So, as Peter alluded to, why are we interested in conducting research on Tai Chi and Qigong? We know it makes people feel better. Isn't that enough? Can't we just leave it at that? And really, we want to better understand the health benefits of these practices for various populations and be able to articulate what are the potential benefits, what are potential harms. As we've heard about yesterday and this morning, perhaps there are certain populations that this isn't the best practice for, that it might exacerbate underlying conditions. What are characteristics of people that may influence the effects that we see? And if we can better understand these health benefits, we can contribute to a knowledge base that then allows us to impact healthcare policies and practice guidelines and coverage. And that's really one of the ultimate goals, is how do we provide access to these therapies to a wider population and in a way that, insurance might cover it. And then backwards, so this is, communication out to healthcare and policies backwards. So what are the communications back to the Tai Chi and Qigong training and practices that may influence the next generation of these practices? So I did just want to share the overall NIH support for Tai Chi research. This is data actually that I got from that reporter platform that Peter just showed you. You can actually search and find out how much research is being funded on Tai Chi. And this is a search over the last 10 years, 2012 through 2022. And all I did was put in Tai Chi into the search. And so it's reporting on everything. And you can see that NCCIH has a pretty substantial investment in Tai Chi research of almost $40 million over the last 10 years. But you can see, as I said, other institutes and centers at the NIH are also supporting this work. The National Institutes of Aging and the National Cancer Institute are the next two highest. And then there's several others that are also engaged. What are they funding? What are the topics that they're funding? This also comes from Reporter. You can actually generate lots of fun figures in Reporter. So they're looking at Tai Chi in relationship to chronic pain and physical activity, looking at just as a mind-body exercise. You can see sleep quality in there, depressive symptoms, and other topics, older adults, as well as falls prevention, which we've heard a lot about. And so this, you can start to kind of see, all right, what are you interested in? And what areas of science might you be able to contribute to? So now I want to kind of switch over to some NCCIH specific resources for getting engaged and understanding the science. And the first thing I want to point to is just our overall webpage. If you go to nccih.nih.gov, you can actually subscribe to get regular research updates in your email inbox of all of the different research that we're funding and different opportunities that we're looking to build on. We also have a range of resources on our website to help interpret the science and know the state of the science for different topical areas. And so a couple of the resources I want to focus on today is the Know the Science resource, right there. And then some fact sheets that we produce on a range of topics and practices that we support research on. So first I'll just show you the Know the Science webpage. And this is something that we actually created just a couple years ago that really provide tools for helping individuals who don't have a research degree be able to interpret and find research results. And so we have a tool here in each of these, you click into, and there's a whole other web page to really kind of delve into the topic. But how to make sense of a scientific journal article. How do you actually read this? How to even find those scientific journal articles on this search engine called PubMed. What does natural mean? It doesn't necessarily mean safer or better. How do you evaluate online resources on complementary health approaches? There's a lot of misinformation out there along with good information, and these tools are really geared at helping people understand how to navigate that and really how to evaluate the information you come across. So lots of really great things here. The other thing I wanted to highlight is our fact sheets. And so this is something that we produce, and we update these every couple years to try to reflect the state of the science about a given practice or a given health outcome that we commonly support. So we have a fact sheet on Tai Chi. You can see it kind of describes what it is. And then it goes through, kind of the results to date on some common health topics that people are researching about Tai Chi. We have a similar page for Qigong as well. All right. The other thing I just want to touch on are some training resources. If you are reading these articles and you're like, I actually want to get more training about how to interpret science or get engaged in science, what are the resources that NIH supports to help you do that? And I would say, first and foremost, the best thing is to connect with somebody doing the science, as Peter just talked about, through the Reporter platform. And you can actually, all of those links with their names goes to their email. So you can contact these individuals. As Peter said, think about how to do that and craft your email. But really connecting with somebody who's doing the science really is great for getting that hands-on research experience. The NIH also offers other trainings online, and this website really has a range of trainings that are available that you can sign up and take for free online. And so this is just one example, the Introduction to the Principles and Practices of Clinical Research. This tells you all the nuts and bolts of planning and conducting a clinical trial. It gets very detailed, but it gives you a great appreciation for all the steps involved. And then we also have funded these clinical and translational science award programs that are located at medical centers across the United States. Each of these CTSA programs offer multiple trainings and webinars that also, many of them are free for the public to engage in. And so you can Google search for a CTSA near you and look to see what kinds of opportunities they have to support your training in research and gain a better appreciation. So that's the end of my talk. I do want to say, if you are interested in funding for doing a doctoral program or advanced training in science, I'm happy to answer those questions later. But thank you for your attention, and I'll hand things over to Pamela.
Thanks for coming, everybody. Good morning. Thank you to Lene and Pamela for such great information there. So my name is Stanwood Chang. So I'm here to talk to you about what it's like to be a Tai Chi teacher in the front lines in the medical studies, and what that experience is like, and how different it can be from what you typically see in a Tai Chi school and the more traditional way of teaching. So why get involved in these medical studies? Why teach in these medical studies? Okay, what's your motivation? Right? It's because you love the art, right? You want to help spread it, disseminate it to as many people as possible, get the word out about the health benefits and all the wonderful things it can do, and contribute to the science of it, right? Help build these bridges between East and West. And in Peter's presentation this morning, he touched upon something that I've been thinking about a lot the last couple of days, is, the skeptics, the ones that try and debunk, paranormal stuff, UFOs, Bigfoot. And of course, one of the things they'll say about traditional medicines and stuff like that is, acupuncture, Qi, Chinese medicine, it's like pseudo-science psychobabble, right? So how do you, this is why we do what we do, right? Is to build the body of evidence, build the body of knowledge so that you can say, you want evidence? We have the evidence, okay? This is not magic, right? When you teach in a medical study, this is definitely going to expand your skill set as a teacher, right? Teaching to a room full of Parkinson's patients is very, very different than teaching to a room full of Tai Chi enthusiasts who have come to your school seeking you out. It's a very, very different beast, very different audience, okay? And this is really, really going to test you and challenge you, and it's really going to sharpen your teaching skills. And lastly, it's going to help fortify your credentials, your CV. And Peter mentioned in his slide, having a CV or resume, which may sound like a bit of an alien concept as a Tai Chi teacher. But if you want to get involved in this world, I highly recommend that you get together and put together a really nice, good-looking CV and resume. So what can you contribute? So you might contribute to the development of these protocols in these medical studies. What exactly are you going to teach? What are the essential ingredients that you're going to transmit to these people, right? What is the essence of Tai Chi that you want them to leave with? The teaching methodology and principles that can be replicated, that can be scaled, right? That can be duplicated no matter whether you're doing it in Boston or China or Australia or anywhere else, right? Developing fidelity checklists, right? Are you adhering to these principles and methodologies? Are you adhering to the protocol? When I'm teaching in the medical study, sometimes Peter will come along every once in a few months, sit down and watch me, and it's kind of check out my teaching and making sure I'm checking all the boxes and give me feedback afterwards. Right? And you can help develop these fidelities and proficiencies to make sure that what you're delivering is at a competent level. And all of this can help inform future instructors in medical studies, in which you may end up being a part of and helping to teach and train other teachers in medical studies. Okay? And certainly you will be helping to embed Tai Chi and Qigong in the healthcare mainstream, right? Hospitals, healthcare institutions, health insurance, right? And you'll be contributing to that evolution. And so, I'm going to spend a little more time on this slide. Like I said, teaching in a medical study is very, very, very different. So here are some of the things that you're going to find that you may not be aware of. You have a very narrow teaching window usually, right? In most of our medical studies, the window is about 12 weeks. You've got these students for 12 weeks. Okay? You inherently already have students with health limitations, whether the study is about COPD, Parkinson's, heart failure, balance issues. These are not, the sort of high-functioning people, enthusiasts who come seek you out.